Hey guys, it's Movie Buff Beth of the Movie Buff Paints, and I'm back again with another video. Today I'm going to show off our A24 collection. We have some Blu-rays, mostly Blu-rays, DVDs, and a couple 4Ks as well in this collection. A24 is one of my favorite film distributors as well as film production companies, because they've been delving into that as well lately. They put out some great films, kind of more obscure out there stuff, also a little more mainstream stuff, kind of all across the board. Some of my favorite movies of the last decade have come from A24, but I really enjoy collecting them. I don't have every single one. I'm pretty darn close. I know I'm missing The Death of Dick Long, and I'll kind of say a few disclaimers to start. They have recently started releasing BDRs as well as DVDs, whereas before, towards the beginning of the films they were releasing, they were all, on Blu-ray with slipcovers, and it was really awesome. But I guess they've had to try to cut some costs recently, and that has definitely impacted their releases. So when it only comes out on DVD or BDR in the US, I do try to find an import. So a few of these are imports from other countries, but they are distributed by A24 in the US. I think I have almost all of them. Again, there's a couple that I don't have yet. And to say I have a complete collection, that'd be impossible because they are continually releasing films. So I'll try not to talk too much about each title. Full disclosure, I have not seen every single title in my A24 collection, but I'll definitely try and get around to all of them eventually. If there's any you want to hear more about in the future, I'll push them towards the top of my list and try to do reviews in my What I've Been Watching series. You'll probably notice behind me there's quite a few movies leaning. That's because I have a ton of A24 films. I spent a good part of my morning running around the movie room here trying to get them all together for this video. And then I'll probably say underrated, absolutely love, definitely recommend over and over again. In doing these YouTube videos, I found that there are some things that I say over and over again, but hey, that's part of what you're getting with Movie Buff Beth here. I want to thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoy this video, and we'll just go ahead and dive right in. I tried to organize them by release date, like when they came out by A24. There's probably a few that are a little out of order, but I tried to go in order. First one is actually a title I have not watched yet. The first film put out by A24, it is called A Glimpse Inside the Mind of Charles Swan III. I had to look down at that one. It's such a long title. Yeah, this one took me a while to track down. I started collecting A24 pretty early on in their releasing. However, this one I got a little later. This is written and directed by Roman Coppola, so that's interesting there. You got Charlie Sheen, Jason Schwartzman, and Bill Murray. So an interesting cast. I haven't heard much about this one. I'll probably check it out at some point, but yeah, that's the first title in my A24 collection and the first movie they ever released, so pretty cool. The next one they only released on DVD in the US, so I have the UK release from Artificial Eye, and that is Ginger and Rosa. This is another one I have not seen yet. Stars Elle Fanning. Yeah, these first few I had to go back and get because I wasn't collecting them yet when these were originally released, so some of these were a long time coming, hard to find, especially with slipcovers. But next one is Spring Breakers. This one stars James Franco, Selena Gomez. This is definitely a divisive film. I know some people absolutely love it, and I know some people absolutely hate it. I'm probably more towards the absolutely love side. I think this movie's wacky and really fun, and definitely much more of an art house film than it was originally marketed as. I think a lot of people just thought this was going to be a fun, like, summer watch to go see with all your friends, but it was much more of an art house kind of crime thriller movie, and I think that's probably why I appreciated it. But yeah, I enjoy this one. Next one we got here, this is probably one I haven't seen since it came out, so it's been quite a while. This one's written and directed by Sofia Coppola. That is The Bling Ring. I do remember enjoying this one, but again, this was very early on in my film watching. Probably before I would really consider myself a cinephile or into these kind of more art house titles. But I do remember enjoying it. I'll have to go back and give it another watch soon. Next one, this is absolutely one of my favorite romantic films, and that is The Spectacular Now. Miles Teller and Shailene Woodley were coming hot off the heels of their success with the Divergent series. I believe just the first one had come out when this came out. And funny enough, they played brother and sister in that movie. But I went out and saw this one. I'm pretty sure I saw it in theaters. Yeah, I saw this one in theaters. And I enjoyed it a lot. I read the book afterwards. They definitely changed the movie a little bit, maybe a little bit more of a Hollywood ending, but I did like what they did with it. And just some really solid performances here. This really showed to me that Miles Teller had some real acting potential. And then he came out with Whiplash, and yeah, of course, he's a fantastic actor. But yeah, this is a really good coming-of-age teen romance that I enjoyed quite a lot. This is another one that I watched pretty early on, shortly after it came out, and definitely due for a rewatch for me. And that is Denis Villeneuve's film Enemy, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. Yeah, I watched this one with my mom. We rented it from the Redbox, and we did not know at all what we were getting into. I think if I went back and watched it now, I'd appreciate it a lot more. I just haven't gotten around to it. I did not dislike it, but I definitely didn't understand it. Probably didn't appreciate it for what it was. But I do remember enjoying it on some level. So definitely one that's due for a rewatch, especially now that I've seen Villeneuve's other films and I've really enjoyed them. So. And this was another one that I watched shortly after release. And I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, what in the world was that? I think this might have actually been one that I watched with my mom as well, which for those of you who have seen this movie, realize how awkward that probably was. But yeah, the movie is Under the Skin. I've since gone back and watched this with Andrew, and we both really enjoyed it. It's very out there, definitely one that is not surface level. You have to think about this one. There's a lot of symbolism, and it's a little confusing on first watch, but if you go back again and you know what you're in for, you can kind of catch a lot more. And yeah, I definitely enjoyed this film. A fantastic performance from Scarlett Johansson. Next one we have is Locke, starring Tom Hardy. This is one of those movies where it's basically one setting, one character, and they have to carry the whole film. And you know, who better than Tom Hardy to do a role like that? He's absolutely fantastic here. He just is driving in his car, having a conversation the entirety of the film, which sounds really boring, but it actually is really engaging and really interesting. And again, it's a really solid performance from Tom Hardy, so I definitely recommend this one. All right, the next one we've got here is Obvious Child. I think that this is an extremely underrated romantic comedy from A24. This was my introduction to Jenny Slate, who is just absolutely fantastic. She's hilarious, but I love everything that she does, everything that she's been in. And this was my introduction to her, and I really appreciated this film. It talks about abortion, and it's not, you know, an easy romantic comedy. You know, it kind of delves into a little more seriousness than a lot of romantic comedies do, but I appreciated that about this so much. And I really enjoy this film. Hardly ever hear anyone talk about this movie, but it's definitely one to watch. Next one is The Rover with Guy Pearce and Robert Pattinson. I actually hear this one get brought up quite a bit in the like Instagram film community, probably because Robert Pattinson is, you know, gaining such a following, you know, in that crowd. I did enjoy this movie, I will admit. I think I watched it when I was kind of tired, and it's a very slow burn, so it's probably one I need to go back and watch again. But really solid performances from these two. Next one is Life After Beth. This is a zom-com, if you will, kind of a romantic comedy, horror comedy as well. You got Dane DeHaan, Aubrey Plaza. She's his girlfriend, and she turns into a zombie, and it's kind of them navigating their relationship and the impending doom of the world. It's a pretty cute movie. It's not anything great, but I do enjoy this one. Next one we have here is The Captive, starring Ryan Reynolds. I went into this one with somewhat high expectations just because I really like Ryan Reynolds. I feel like there is a good movie in there somewhere, but it just didn't really come out. It was pretty slow. I'd probably go back and give it another watch at some point, but this one was just alright to me. Next one we have here is Tusk, directed by Kevin Smith. This movie is absolutely batshit crazy, and I loved it. Kevin Smith doing kind of a horror comedy, out there type movie really worked for me. Justin Long is awesome in this. If you don't like bizarre, weird horror movies, probably don't watch it, but if you do, I definitely recommend this one. It's a lot of fun. All right, next one we got here is Laggies. This one stars Keira Knightley, Sam Rockwell, and Chloe Grace Moretz. This is directed by the late Lynn Shelton, who unfortunately just recently passed away. And she was just such a talent. She had a really unique and fun directing style that's definitely at play here. It's really quirky, fun, feel-good movie, and Lynn Shelton's definitely gone far too soon. And then we have Revenge of the Green Dragons starring Ray Liotta. Have not seen this one yet. And then we have A Most Violent Year starring Oscar Isaac and Jessica Chastain. Really good, gritty crime thriller type movie. Definitely an underrated one that I don't hear people talk about as much in the A24 catalog, but really great performances and just a overall great film. Then we have Son of a Gun starring Ewan McGregor. Have not seen this one yet. Then we have a great movie here directed by Noah Baumbach, and that is While We're Young. Stars Ben Stiller, Amanda Seyfried, Adam Driver, and Naomi Watts. Just an all-star cast, some really great performances. I really like this story. I feel like it's one that hasn't really been told as much. I just love Noah Baumbach's directing style, and this is a great one. Next one we have Cut Bank, which stars Liam Hemsworth. Haven't watched this one quite yet. Then we have our first 4K release from A24, and that is Ex Machina. This is a fantastic film. It stars Alicia Vikander, Oscar Isaac, and Domhnall Gleeson. Great sci-fi artificial intelligence film that delves into the psychological. Just a really, really fantastic film with some really fantastic performances as well. Definitely check this one out if you haven't yet. Next one we have here is a modern western starring Michael Fassbender, and that is Slow West. Westerns are definitely one of my more underseen genres. However, a lot of the modern ones I've seen I have enjoyed. No pun intended, but this is kind of a slow burn. You kind of have to know what you're in for going into this one. However, I did enjoy it quite a bit, and some really solid performances in this one. This next movie is probably the most out of place in the A24 catalog, in my opinion, and that is Barely Lethal, which stars Haley Steinfeld. This is kind of like a action teen comedy. Very out there for their catalog. However, I did enjoy it. I thought it was cute for what it was, but it definitely doesn't fit in with the other films that they've released. Another one of my really underseen genres would be documentaries. However, this is one I've seen and I enjoyed quite a bit, and that is Amy. This is, of course, about Amy Winehouse. She had an incredible, really interesting story. Very unfortunate how her life turned out, but just definitely an absolute talent, and this is a really well done documentary about her. Probably one of the most underrated titles in the A24 catalog, and that is The End of the Tour, starring Jason Segel and Jesse Eisenberg. I absolutely love this one. It's very dialogue driven. You kind of have to know that going in, but probably the best performance I've seen out of Jason Segel, and I think Jesse Eisenberg is always great. He may kind of play the same character in everything that he's in, but that's not to say that he isn't great here. Jason Segel plays David Foster Wallace, the author in this film, and Jesse Eisenberg is someone who is interviewing him and kind of following him around and learning a little bit more about him, and it's just a very interesting and engaging film that I definitely recommend. Next one we have here, this is also by Gillian Flynn, the author of Gone Girl, and that is Dark Places, starring Charlize Theron. I have not watched this one yet. Heard kind of so-so things about it. Next we have Ryan Reynolds and Ben Mendelsohn in Mississippi Grind. Watched this one not too long ago, thought it was pretty decent. Kind of a cool crime thriller with some great performances. I'd say the performances were probably better than the movie itself. Before I sat down to record this video, I probably should have considered what my favorite release from A24 is. However, I always have a really hard time kind of pinning it down. However, this one is always at least in the top 5 when I'm talking about my favorite A24 films, and that is Room, starring, of course, Brie Larson and Jacob Tremblay. This is kind of what put Brie Larson on the map. She's also in The Spectacular Now, and I thought she was fantastic in that movie. However, this really showcases her acting abilities. Just a heartbreaking, heart-wrenching performance from her, and a really great performance from Jacob Tremblay, one of the best child performances I think I've ever seen. Just a gut-wrenching film, and the story is just heartbreaking, but definitely a good watch and one you guys should check out if you haven't seen yet. We have another Oscar Isaac film here, Mojave. Then we have another 4K from Robert Eggers. This is The Witch. I saw this one in theaters and it absolutely blew me away. Just the dread and the tension you feel throughout this film, and the performances are all fantastic. Just a really well done horror film. And I love modern horror films that are period pieces. I think that they just make them really eerie and really intriguing and engaging to watch. But if you guys haven't seen The Witch, definitely check it out. Then we have a Christopher Plummer film here, Remember. Another one I haven't seen quite yet. Now this film, A24 just released this on their web store, and it was very limited. I don't even know if they ever went back and repressed it. However, I had watched this movie in preparation for Trey Edward Schultz's next film, It Comes at Night, and that is Krisha. And again, this is a very odd release. They didn't do a wide release through Lionsgate of this one. It's kind of a little mini digipack. But the film itself is really great. One of the best performances I've seen in a long time. I'm trying to remember the name of the lead. Robin Fairchild, I believe. But yeah, this put Trey Edward Schultz on the map for me, and I knew he was a director to watch, and I've since loved his other two films, which we will talk about in this video. But yeah, Krisha's a great film with one of the best performances I've seen in recent time. Next one, we have James Franco and Amber Heard in The Adderall Diaries. This one probably falls in the It's Just Okay camp of A24 releases. Nothing really to write home about, but it was okay. Next movie we have here is a film by Yorgos Lanthimos, and that is The Lobster. Of his three films that I've seen, I definitely enjoyed this one the least. However, it's been quite a while since I watched it, so I definitely need to go back and watch this one again. His movies are very out there, very quirky, very weird, but fun. I do enjoy them. This is one I haven't seen quite yet, and I'm really not sure why, and that is De Palma, the documentary about Brian De Palma, who happens to be one of my absolute favorite directors. And on top of that, this is directed by Noah Baumbach. So come on guys, why have I not watched this one yet? If you guys have seen it, let me know what you think. So this next film, the year that it came out, we were at Sundance and it was premiering there. And I remember hearing so much about this movie, so many people were talking about it, and how at one screening, everybody got up and left in the middle of the film. And I'm like, okay, I need to see this movie. Because when something is that divisive or that controversial, I really want to see it. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to get tickets to it, but they do something for locals where they do some of the best of the fest, like films that have won awards, and they do them like Monday and Tuesday following the actual festival. And one of the movies that we got to see was this one, and that movie is Swiss Army Man, starring Paul Dano and Daniel Radcliffe. Now you guys have probably heard of this one or seen this one by now, and since it's been released, it's actually gotten a very good reaction from people. I was kind of surprised, but I remember when I saw it, I was like, this is probably the most unique and out there movie that I've ever seen, and I absolutely love it. And I still feel that way about this movie. And unfortunately, a lot of people have come to enjoy it, even past some of the negative reception that it got at Sundance. And it actually won, I believe, like the audience award. So obviously there were people that were enjoying it there as well. I don't want to say too much about this movie if you guys haven't seen it, but it's just one that has to be seen to be believed, to be honest. Just absolutely crazy. Love this movie. Next one we have is Equals, starring Nicholas Hoult and Kristen Stewart. This one gets pretty much all negative reaction from people. Had a pretty low Rotten Tomatoes score. Haven't heard a lot of people say they enjoy it. However, Andrew and I really enjoyed this one. Kind of a cool sci-fi romance that we enjoyed quite a bit. Next one we have here stars Ellen Page and Evan Rachel Wood, and that is Into the Forest. This one was okay, had some good performances. However, it was very depressing, very bleak. Probably not one I would go back and watch again very soon. And the other thing about it is it doesn't have the A24 logo on the spine. How dare they do this to these OCD collectors? Either way, the movie was all right. Got kind of an underrated one here. This is called Morris from America. Has a great child performance. Also really like Craig Robinson in this. Just a fun coming of age film that I enjoyed. This one I haven't seen yet, and I've also not heard any good things about it, and that is The Sea of Trees, which I'm kind of surprised because this has Naomi Watts and Matthew McConaughey, who I really like, so I'll probably check it out one day soon. This next one is directed by Andrea Arnold, and I really enjoy this film, and that is American Honey. This stars Shia LaBeouf and Sasha Lane. This is one of those films where there's not a whole lot of plot, there's not a whole lot going on. However, you just get to spend the day in these characters' world. And I really like that. I like movies that are just a slice of life and they follow characters. They don't have to have a big plot to them, and this movie definitely has that going for it. And some people I know didn't really like it for that reason, and it is a little long. It's over 2 hours, but I really enjoyed this film. And Shia LaBeouf is one of my favorite actors nowadays. He's putting out some great stuff. Next one we've got is Moonlight. Surely you guys have heard of this one. It won Best Picture at the Oscars. Kind of an awkward moment where they accidentally announced that La La Land won, but it was really Moonlight. And that kind of allowed me to delve into my opinion on that, because I really love La La Land. However, I feel that Moonlight was probably more deserving of the award. This is a fantastic coming-of-age film, probably one of the best that I've ever seen. It's beautifully shot, some of the best cinematography I've ever seen in a movie, and really fantastic performances as well. If you guys have not seen Moonlight, definitely check it out. Got another documentary here. I haven't watched this one yet, but it is called Oasis Supersonic. I got a horror movie here, The Monster. This one stars Zoe Kazan, one of my favorite actresses nowadays. Has a really cool creature, just a fun, tense creature feature that I enjoyed a lot. Another one of my absolute favorite A24 releases, and this one does not get talked about enough, and that is 20th Century Women. You have Annette Bening, Greta Gerwig, Billy Crudup, and just an all-star cast. Annette Bening is fantastic. I feel like she gave more of a personal performance, kind of a vulnerable performance in this film, and I really appreciated that. It's a great coming-of-age film set in 70s Santa Barbara, which is really cool. I enjoy this one quite a lot. Next one is Trespass Against Us. Haven't seen this one yet, however it stars Michael Fassbender and Brendan Gleeson, so can't go wrong there. One of my absolute favorite modern horror films, The Black Coat's Daughter. This one stars Emma Roberts and Kiernan Shipka, who is in the Sabrina Netflix series. Really haunting film, one that makes you think. It's not very straightforward. I felt like I understood it first watch, however I looked to Andrew and he was like, what just happened in that movie? So maybe not totally accessible, however if you watch a lot of movies like this you'd probably be able to figure it out. But just a fantastic horror film that I loved quite a bit. Next we have Ben Wheatley's Free Fire. This one is a lot of fun, just an all-out gunfight, full of action. Also has some great performances, an awesome cast. You got Charlton Copley, Armie Hammer, Brie Larson, Cillian Murphy, and Jack Rayner. So really can't go wrong with this one. Definitely a lot of fun. Next one we have here is The Lovers. This is a romantic film about a long married couple played by Deborah Winger and Tracy Letts, who I think is just one of the absolute best performers in the world. Some really great performances here. The movie's just okay, but it's worth watching for Tracy Letts alone. Next we have The Exception, another one I have not seen quite yet. And like I mentioned earlier, Trey Edward Schultz has 2 other films in the A24 catalog, and the next one is It Comes at Night. Really enjoyed this film. It was absolutely marketed wrong. Going in, we were all expecting like a creature feature, or there was actually something that would be coming at night. But really this is more of like a pandemic film, plays much more on the psychological side of horror. I think they just wanted to get people in the theater and sell seats, which that happens a lot with marketing. However, I really enjoyed the end result. I think if you know what you're in for when you watch it, you'll probably enjoy it a lot more. I went and saw this with my husband and my parents, and they were all like, what was that? That was not what I thought we were going to see. And I think they probably come to appreciate it more now that they've watched it again. So yeah, you kind of just have to know what you're in for with this one, and just know that it's not what the trailers sell it to be. In fact, just don't even watch a trailer. If you haven't seen this yet, just go ahead and watch it. It's a great film. Another fantastic movie here, and that is A Ghost Story starring Casey Affleck and Rooney Mara. Another one that was probably marketed kind of weird. I don't remember watching a lot of trailers before I saw this one though. But this is one that really makes you think, really makes you kind of evaluate your life and what you value. and just a really emotionally impactful film that I enjoyed a lot. All right, next one we have here is Woodstock, starring Kirsten Dunst. I have watched this movie once, and honestly, I don't remember too much about it. It was beautifully shot, but probably one I need to go back and watch again. I guess it wasn't super memorable. Next, we have a Sean Baker film here, The Florida Project. This one actually gets a lot of love, and rightfully so. A really great film, a great child performance. I also really love Willem Dafoe in this movie. Another one where you're just spending time in these characters' worlds, and just very enjoyable. It was kind of cool to see the world, through a child's eyes again, and kind of remember what that's like. Then we have another Yorgos Lanthimos film, and that is The Killing of a Sacred Deer. I kind of knew what I was in for when I went and saw this one in theaters after seeing The Lobster, and I enjoyed this one quite a bit more on first watch than The Lobster. It's very wacky, very out there, features a very memorable performance from, I don't remember what the kid's name is, but he's also in Dunkirk. Very memorable performance from him. And you also have Colin Farrell and Nicole Kidman. But yeah, it's a great film. Not my favorite from him. I love The Favorite quite a bit more, but that one's great as well. One of my favorite coming-of-age films of all time, and that is Ladybird, directed by Greta Gerwig. It's a fantastic movie. Really examines and evaluates the mother-daughter relationship and how complex and hard and difficult that can be in life, and also looks into friendship and just all of the troubles that go into being a teenager and growing up and deciding who you want to be when you're not in high school anymore. Just kind of finding yourself and learning about yourself. And features a really fantastic performance from Saoirse Ronan, but also has an all-star supporting cast, including Laurie Metcalf, who gives an Oscar-worthy performance in this. Just a great film. Next movie we have here, this is a biopic of sorts. This is about the making of the infamous movie The Room, and that is The Disaster Artist. This stars James Franco and is also directed by him. You also have his younger brother Dave Franco, who I love, and Seth Rogen. Just a really funny, introspective look into the making of The Room. And if you guys have seen The Room, this will definitely make you laugh. And even if you haven't seen The Room, I think you can enjoy this one. I remember showing it to my parents, and they'd never even heard of The Room, and they still thought it was a really fun film. So well worth a watch. Next one we have here is The Ballad of Lefty Brown. Haven't seen this one quite yet. Then we have The Vanishing of Sydney Hall. This one probably falls more into the okay category. Again, I feel like there was a better film in there somewhere, just wasn't executed as well as it could have been. Next we have The Last Movie Star, starring Burt Reynolds. Haven't watched this one quite yet. Next we have Lean on Pete, starring Charlie Plummer. Really enjoyed this movie, a great coming-of-age film. I remember watching it when one of my cats was really sick though, and it's hard for me to separate that memory from this movie, so I'll have to watch this when I'm happy and when life is going a little better, and I'll let you guys know what I think of it then. But overall, it's a really great film. Then we got a movie with Theo James here, Backstabbing for Beginners. Another one I have not seen yet. And then if you guys have been watching any of our recent videos, I've mentioned a few times that I'm on a huge Paul Schrader kick right now, and that's probably been since I've seen this movie. This was the first time that I knowingly went in watching a Paul Schrader movie, and I saw this one in theaters, and that is First Reformed, starring Ethan Hawke. First of all, Ethan Hawke is fantastic in this movie, probably the best I've ever seen him, and he's a great actor. He's able to do all kinds of different roles, but I feel like this is probably best of his career. And I've gone back and I've read a little bit more about Paul Schrader since watching this, and it's really fascinating to see, just how he delved into the psychological side of religion and how it affects your psyche and your kind of just your mental state in life. And yeah, this movie is just really interesting, really engaging, and one that makes you think quite a lot, and I loved it. And it sent me down the rabbit hole of Paul Schrader. I just watched Mishima yesterday. Really fantastic film, guys. I'll talk more about that later. Then we got another Elle Fanning film here, How to Talk to Girls at Parties. I believe this is based on a comic book. I have not seen this one yet, though. Let me know if you guys have seen it. And kind of going back to that theme of psychological horror, That's definitely the side of horror that I lean towards. I love all kinds of horror, but psychological horror is the best in my opinion. It's the most interesting to me, and this one may very well be one of the best psychological horror films ever released, and that is Ari Aster's Hereditary. I dare say this movie is a masterpiece, and I do not say that word lightly. But the more I watch this movie, the more I get out of it, the more I notice, and the more I appreciate. This has endless rewatchability for me. In fact, I could probably go throw it on right now and enjoy it. But again, when you delve into the horrors of actual life and, our psyche and grief and everything is just so interesting. And, Ari Aster does that again in another movie that I'll talk about in a few minutes. But Ari Aster is a genius when it comes to psychological horror, and that's definitely at play here. And Toni Collette, as well as Alex Wolff, two of the best performances I have seen in a long time, and probably two of the best horror performances I've ever seen. This movie's fantastic. And now that I gabbed about that so long, I think that may be my favorite A24 film. I don't know though. Ask me tomorrow. Next one we have here is Woman Walks Ahead. I love Jessica Chastain, so not sure why I haven't gotten into this one yet, but let me know if you guys have. Another really great coming-of-age film, and now that I think about it, I should have mentioned this one in my video the other day when I talked about my favorite actor-directed films, and that is 8th Grade, directed by Bo Burnham. A really great coming-of-age film again, and really interesting that a man was able to make a movie about the 8th grade female experience. Because I was an 8th grade girl once, and I definitely found a lot to relate to in this. But also Andrew did as well. Like, I feel like this is a really universally relatable film, and I think that there's something in this movie for everyone. And one of the best coming of age films, very understated. Its power is in the quiet moments and those moments of reflection, and it just does a great job of going into all of that. And I love the relationship between Kayla and her dad. Just a really sweet relationship and a great performance by her dad as well. But Elsie Fisher's fantastic here. I hope we see her in more. We've got our first DVD release here. I think there might be like an Australian Blu-ray out there. I'm not sure. I'll have to look it up, but I did just buy the DVD. And that is Hot Summer Nights. This stars Timothée Chalamet, who I love. I thought this was pretty enjoyable. Not a whole lot to make it unique from other types of films in the genre, but it was enjoyable, and I did like it. And we got another DVD here, Never Going Back, another one that I enjoyed. Kind of a cool, laid-back, spend the afternoon with these characters type movie, and I really enjoyed it. This one's been on my watch list for a while, and I haven't watched it yet, but I hope to soon, and that is A Prayer Before Dawn. I've heard nothing but good things about this one. And a fantastic horror thriller here, Green Room, starring Patrick Stewart, Anton Yelchin, and Imogen Poots. Very gritty, very dark, very bleak, but a fantastic horror movie that has to do with neo-Nazis and trying to escape their grasp. And yeah, I sure do miss Anton Yelchin. He was a fantastic talent and gone far too soon. I'm going to get into some of the imports here. First one is Slice. This has Chance the Rapper in it. Haven't seen it yet. It's a horror movie. I believe this is a Australian Blu-ray. And then from the UK I have The Children Act, starring Emma Thompson and Stanley Tucci. And again, going back to that video I made the other day, when I pulled this off the shelf earlier, I was really kicking myself for not including this in my favorite actor-directed films. This is a directorial debut from Jonah Hill, probably one of my favorite coming-of-age films of all time, and that's saying a lot because I love coming-of-age films, and that is mid-90s. This goes back to the 90s, obviously, and looks at skate culture and a little boy kind of finding his place with the older crowd. And again, I was never a teenage boy or a preteen in the 90s. However, I found a lot to relate to in this movie, and I think Jonah Hill did a fantastic job on a directorial debut. I just love this movie. So much to love here. This movie, I believe, is known as Outlaws in the US. This is a German Blu-ray, and it's known as 1%, I believe, internationally. Not available on Blu-ray in the US. I think it was a BDR. And then this is an Arrow UK release, Gaspar Noé's film Climax. This is another one that was only released on BDR in the US. And I'm all for supporting A24, but I just don't want to support the whole BDR DVD thing they've got going, so I'll import them when I can. This movie, if you're a Gaspar Noé fan, absolutely recommend it. Probably would say to rent it first if you have not seen anything else from Gaspar Noé. It's very out there, very dreamlike, very surreal, but a really enjoyable film. Kind of just feel like you're in a trance. Kind of feel like you're tripping while you're watching this movie, but I like it a lot. Then we got a horror movie here. This is the UK release, The Hole in the Ground. Not watched this one quite yet. And then we have Gloria Bell starring Julianne Moore. A really great performance from her. Kind of looking into the aging woman and how you deal with that and how you work through your life in that way. But yeah, Julianne Moore is fantastic here. This is a movie I was really excited to be released, but I have not watched it yet for some reason. It's Claire Denis' film High Life starring Robert Pattinson. I think the reason that I'm kind of putting it off is I've heard some mixed things about it. I really feel like I'll enjoy it. However, I just haven't gotten to it yet. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. This one, however, is one I've heard a lot of mixed things about that I did watch and I really enjoyed. This is the UK Blue. This is Under the Silver Lake, starring Andrew Garfield. This is an absolutely wacky movie. It does not make a heck of a lot of sense, but I still loved it for some reason. I didn't even want it to end. I just wanted to keep going through all of these crazy things with Andrew Garfield. Kind of a mystery, just a really weird movie from the same director that did It Follows. But yeah, I enjoyed this one a lot. Then another UK release here, that's The Souvenir. I've not watched this one yet. And this is a film that's gotten a lot of buzz in the online community recently, and it's well worth the recognition, and that is The Last Black Man in San Francisco. This one kind of goes into the gentrification of San Francisco and how it's changed and how people are dealing with that in the evolving world. Some people have said that this is kind of style over substance, and maybe that's the case a little bit, but it's all right with me because it's just a beautiful film, really fun to watch, some fantastic cinematography, great performances overall, one you guys should check out. And then we have Ari Aster's next film, Midsommar. I know this one's very divisive, however, I know it has a lot of fans out there, and rightfully so. Again, Ari Aster is the master of psychological horror. I think he did a great job here. And to be honest, I go back and forth between this and Hereditary. I feel like if I watched Hereditary most recently, I'll say that one. But if I watched this one more recently, I'll say that one. So it's hard. It's really hard for me to choose. I think they both have a lot of great things about them. And again, this goes into, you know, the horror of anxiety and relationships and just really fantastic psychological horror. I don't know what else to say about it. A fantastic performance from Florence Pugh here. I'm really excited to get the 4K in the mail. That shipped. It should be getting here any day. And the director's cut I loved because I never wanted this movie to end. I mean, it's beautiful. It's beautifully shot. I love horror that takes place during the day. But yeah, there's just so much to like about this movie. I know it's not for everyone. However, it was for me and I loved it. Another great film here from last year, and that is The Farewell. This stars Awkwafina, who I think is just at her absolute best here. I think if you guys don't take her seriously as an actress, you obviously have not seen this movie yet. Really beautiful portrait of family and culture and how you know, you kind of work through cultural barriers and the importance of love and life and family, and I just really love this movie. Definitely one you guys should watch. Next one, this is a German Blu-ray, I do believe, and that is Skin, starring Jamie Bell. A really great film, great performance from Jamie Bell. He's kind of a neo-Nazi, and he kind of decides he wants to get out of that life, and it goes into that and the challenges that he faces while doing so. But yeah, great film. Got another DVD only release here, and that is Low Tide. Haven't watched this one quite yet. The next one is another Robert Eggers film, and that is The Lighthouse. I was going to wear my t-shirt for this movie in this video, however it's long sleeve and it's 105 degrees outside here in Las Vegas today, so that was not going to happen. Sorry guys, we had to go with Carrie. But yeah, The Lighthouse, a great horror movie. It's in black and white, has some of the best cinematography I've seen in recent time. And Robert Pattinson is great, but holy crap, Willem Dafoe is fantastic in this movie. I loved his performance. I just love this movie. Probably one I could go back and rewatch at any time. It's a really out there fun horror film. Then we have The Kill Team, one I have not seen quite yet. And then we have Trey Edward Schultz's third directorial feature, and that is Waves. And this one's probably my favorite. This one was a little more divisive, although all of his films really are. But I thought this movie was fantastic. One of people's complaints about it is that it's kind of split into two. There's kind of two different movies in here. But for me, I really appreciated that. I liked that it looked at two different characters and we got to see how they interact together, but then we also got to see how they are apart. I would say the second half is probably the better of the two, but overall the movie is just beautifully shot. Some really cool sequences that mix the soundtrack into the story, and some fantastic performances here. I absolutely love this film. One of my favorite releases from A24 and one of my favorite films of 2019. I'm now realizing that a few of these did get out of order. Apologize for that, but it happens when you're dealing with this many movies in your collection. But next one we got here is Menishing. This is another release that was super weird. This was never like wide release by Lionsgate. It just popped up on Amazon one day and I was like, oh, that movie came out, and so I bought it expecting it to be a BDR, and it actually might be. I'm not totally sure, but it did come with a slipcover. Looks fairly legit. This might even be like a Canadian release or something, I don't know. Either way, movie's very good. You look at the sorry, I have to look at what it's called, the Hasidic Jewish community, which I knew next to nothing about before the movie. But yeah, just a really heartfelt film that I enjoyed a lot. One I definitely need to go back and watch again. These are the couple that got out of order. One of my favorite thrillers of all time right here. From the Safdie brothers, we have Good Time. It stars Robert Pattinson. Just a fantastic movie. Keeps you on the edge of your seat. You really feel like you're just kind of in a trance going through this night with Robert Pattinson. It's just totally anxiety inducing, but a fantastic film with one of my favorite soundtracks of recent time. I have it on vinyl and I spin it all the time. It's just a great soundtrack and a great movie. And we got two more here. Next one is In Fabric. This is the UK Blu-ray release. This is probably one I need to go back and watch again to fully appreciate. It's a very out there, weird horror film, but I did enjoy it. And last one, this is another Safdie brothers film, and that is Uncut Gems. I know a lot of people preferred this one to Good Time. I think I still lean more towards Good Time. However, I've only seen this one the one time. I definitely need to watch it again. But Adam Sandler is absolutely fantastic here. Another really anxiety-inducing thriller where you don't have a moment to take a breath. Just a great thriller, great movie. I think that's it, guys. That is my A24 collection. I hope I didn't forget anything. I tried to get them all together. Again, I love this company. I love the stuff they're doing. They've also delved into television recently with like Euphoria and Rami. I love both of those. I do hope that the few they haven't released on physical media, that they'll get out there soon. Even if it's a BDR, I'll take it over nothing. But yeah, I do love this company. They release some really diverse, interesting films that otherwise maybe would not have seen the light of day. But yeah, go ahead and let me know what your favorite A24 release is. And thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell, and we will see you next time.